As much as we'd like her to be here, we're glad she's not here. So she is excused tonight. We welcome everybody from the public, and glad that you could join us this evening. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and if you will join me in the pledge. Thank you. Our first item of business is the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve that. Alderman Blomker.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Alderman Moore. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Next item of business is the mayor's report. I have just a couple things to report, but before I do that, as all of you know or should know, today was the closing date for filing for all elected positions for our April ballot, and I've asked our city clerk, Linda Drummond, to just tell us who filed for each of those offices.
For Ward 1, we have Joshua Hurlbert. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
And this is Josh right here, by the way.
You did just fine. I've heard it a lot worse than that.
Ward 2, we have Steve Sarver. Ward 3, we have Marvin Atkins. For mayor, we have Mayor Fulmer and Damian Boley.
Okay, thank you. Filing's closed as of 5 o'clock today, so those are the names that will be appearing on the ballot for the April election. I just have a couple items to report to the board. Just a couple things that I attended on Thursday, January the 4th. I attended the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and had some good things happening there. On the following Monday, January 8th, I attended the work session for the board along with all of you, as well as I attended the City Administrator Search Committee meeting afterward. So that is, those are the only things I attended. Were any of the aldermen able to attend the Chamber of Commerce lunch? Jack, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you just report on the Chamber lunch?
Yes, it was a fairly quick chamber luncheon. I had meetings out of town, so as soon as I gave the city report, which were the election questions that are on and closing for the candidacy today. Other than that, I had to leave early in the meeting to make my other meeting. So. But it was generally, as usual, a nice, good meeting.
Very good. Also, those are all the meetings that I attended or didn't attend in the chamber luncheon concern. The only other thing really as far as upcoming events is a week from tomorrow, or a week from this Thursday, is the MML meeting here in Smithville. So far, 3 of the aldermen have signed up to attend. And if at all possible, we'd encourage all 4 have signed up. Thank you, Linda, for the update. And if at all possible, I think it'd be great to show the MML what a great city we have by having all of our elected officials there. We are also inviting staff members to be there and extending some invitations out to some others in the community. As I mentioned, they have a traveling trophy, and the city with the most attendees gets the trophy. And being as we've never hosted the MML dinner before, this is our first. I did hear from Brian Hove, who's the owner of Kozaks, and they're preparing for the dinner. It will start 6 o'clock on the 25th, and I think it'll be a great event. So I'd encourage all of you, if you haven't done so yet, please come to the dinner. The city will pay for your dinner, and then if you want to bring a guest, then that will be upon you to provide payment for that. as well. All right, that's my report. Let's move on. Alderman Moore.
For those that are going to be on the board to attend that, or is that something that we could?
You know, I think we can, yes. So we'll extend that to all those who can also be on the board, and also I think all the candidates for elected office. We'll extend an invitation to all of them.
Here would be a good opportunity to get familiar with you and
Very good. I think that's a great idea. We will make sure that gets done, won't you, Linda? Sure. Thank you. That's a good point. Thank you for making that suggestion, Alderman Moore. Next item of business are committee reports. Do we have any of those? Alderman Blomquist, yes.
You mentioned the search committee to give the board an update on that. That group did meet after our work session and walk through the job description to clarify some things. There are some things we're seeking additional clarification, but once that is ready, we'll bring it to this board for your consideration and, if so pleased, your approval as well.
And that's in reference to the job description that currently is part of an ordinance. Part of our ordinances, and because we've made some changes that were recommended by the search committee as well as by the search company that we've engaged, we will be bringing in some matters before the board, probably at our next meeting, to make a few minor adjustments on those ordinances that are affected by that. Thank you. Any other committee reports? I think that's the only one. Okay. Next item of business is our staff report. Jack?
Thank you, Mayor Fulmer. I have a truncated report in the packet. When we were doing this, it was Thursday of last week when we closed City Hall due to the impending bad road conditions, ice and the like. It is my understanding that the weather prognosticators didn't get it fully correct. It wasn't as horrible. It was pretty bad, but it wasn't like the one we had last year that shut the roads down completely. So that's in there. We have, in addition to the packet report, there's a couple of new things that I'd like to show. One thing is the road district legal description. If you recall, in order to get that on the ballot, we have to have a very specific legal description. We worked to discover the latest one we had, which turns out it was from 2002. Contacted the company that did that one, Alit Surveying, spoke to Sam, had him get me a proposal to take all of the existing work that he's done in the past and add the about, what was it, Linda, 16, 20, somewhere in there? 20 annexations since he did the last one, so he'll have to redo it to make it work. I signed off on that today to get that work started. It will include a map, so it'll make it a little more visually checkable by us. Reading those legal descriptions are obnoxious. But at the end of the day, that legal description will give us the ability to then present a ballot or a petition to the Clay County Commission to get something on the ballot. As you all know, I'm sure the road district scenario in Clay County is such that Smithville is the only municipality that hasn't done it. That's small. Kansas City hasn't. But so we have the road district's information nearing a conclusion. The next one is the snow and ice control policy. I've put a full copy of it on your desk for your review. You will note it says 2018. That is because when we pulled it out after the first two snows in December, just to make sure, see if we needed to update it, we noted that the jurisdictional, co-jurisdictional streets were incredibly inaccurate of what we do now. There was a lot of streets that we do because since then we've annexed it. It's now inside the city limits. We've updated it for that. Everything else is the same. And I think it's important to note we've had 6 events so far this season, 2 last year and 4 this year. 265 tons of salt sand mix have been put down. We have 70 tons of just salt coming. This super, super cold weather, the salt sand mix is not hot enough to melt anything. So we're going to have 70 tons of just salt. So if we have another event that is this cold, below 12 degrees, we'll have 100% salt and we'll get a little better melting. The grit for the sand is important where we're at. If you look at the snow and ice control policy priorities list, they're busted out into 4 different priorities on how we do our things. And I think it's important to note part of what we've done with MoDOT in acquiring some of the streets is they have a similar priority system for their highways and the like. And our roads are the very last roads they get to on many of them. Double D, F Highway, W Highway, all of those were lower priority in their system. But for us, they're almost the highest priority we have, including 169 and 92. So us acquiring some of those allows us to make those a higher priority and get those roads taken care of sooner. And then in addition to the priorities list you see there, we also have the next item is, there we go, the categories of the different types of storms. I wouldn't call them storms if it's some of that, but it's an event.
Weather events.
Yeah, the weather events. And for each of those weather events, for example, we've had 6 Category 1 events since December 24th. That's all less than 2 inches and how we handle those. We've kind of been running off of this for some time. We have dropped the blades a lot more in the last few years than the policy generally calls for, but I think that's a good thing. Generally, the policy calls for less than 2 inches, just get the sand and the salt out. In the entire 6 events, we only had one that we had to have a call back by the police department, and it was on the 7th of January, on a Sunday, I believe it was, or Saturday night. It just continued to get worse as the evening went on after they hit it in the morning. So all of the aspects of that policy are in effect, and they seem to be working at least right now. So we wanted you to make sure you had it. It will be going on to the website as well, the 2018 stuff. Yes, John, you got a question.
So this is a policy on, when you treat and things like that. Do you guys have like a best practice or any kind of a policy on actually how you guys plow the road? For instance, I sent you a picture where my street kind of has that little turn, and then there's like a little kind of maybe mini little turn over there. Yeah. They every time they skip our houses and they just go through. We never get that section of the street plowed. And I went drive around other places around here, and I'm noticing that same trend in cul-de-sacs as well. It's like it's completely inconsistent with how their streets are getting plowed. Like they're not getting to the curbs. I mean, sometimes it's just they don't even plow it.
And ultimately, in these light snows, less than 2 inches, they most likely won't. I think the only ones that, according to Alan, the only cul-de-sacs they actually try to do that on in low snows like this are the ones that are on an uphill. So you got to come up out of them, because those houses may not be able to get up to the plowed, cleaned area.
I've noticed it happen as well last year, or I remember the last biggest storm we had. They did the same thing, and at that point it was like 3 feet. Where they just pushed it into that area and they didn't clear all that out. So we had to go, as homeowners, we had to go out there and clear it out ourselves.
And ultimately, that is not part of the policy. That was an error, clearly an error. I would suggest that if you see it, if we end up having any of the 21 inches we're supposed to get, please notify us, notify me so I can get it to them, because when we have over the 4 inches to actually require everything cleared. Now, I will tell you, the last thing they do are cul-de-sacs. They get as you go to the priorities, cul-de-sacs are, unfortunately, the lowest priority because it has the least amount of traffic on it, other than the people that live there. But the goal is to get you out to it. But they are to be cleaned. They take about 25 to 30 minutes to completely clear. So when they're doing them with those trucks, that's kind of the last thing they hit. But they should never leave one unplowed. So if you just notify us, and we'll put something out associated with that on social media and on the Facebook page or on the city website as well, to highlight that. Send us a email or make contact to City Office during regular hours. Or if it's dangerous, they should call the police dispatch unit over at Platte County, and they can send that information to a local officer who will then be able to make a call to the street superintendent to get that taken care of.
But I would like, if possible, maybe just kind of let the street crews know, just make sure when you're doing it. I mean, like where my curb is, I mean, there's really no reason why they can't just keep going and then go around it. I mean, it makes no sense why they couldn't do that. So, I mean, if that's a policy that I think we need to look at, I mean, maybe we need to add that.
Sure, and if we want to have...
That's easy. I mean, it's not like we have to do anything extra. We just keep going along the curb and you're fine.
And ultimately, that's something we can certainly discuss at the next. I will have a conversation with the street superintendent and see if we can't get a resolution about that. Otherwise, we'll put it on the agenda for the February meeting. February? Yes, February.
Alderman Ruth?
Hey, Jack, that's not me. In regards to the county highways and stuff, is there a potential for us to have an agreement with the county in case we find out? It's okay. We find out roads aren't being plowed quick enough and that we can do it or something like that?
Well, yeah, we can always do it. It just delays us getting to our roads. Our goal is to get, and that's one of the, for example, up north especially, next season, when the snow season's on, we will have F Highway, the entire thing will be a city, we will be maintaining that one. And DD out to the Dam Road. We won't have W yet, and that's probably down the road sometime, but ultimately, we can always do it. The downside is we get behind on all the other streets we've got. We already got a little over 100 miles now on our street system. So
thanks. I didn't know we had that ability to go ahead and do them. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes they do if the plows can't get through very well, they're having slipping problems. They'll drop the blade themselves because they know nobody else is going to be able to get there until MoDOT comes through.
Thanks.
Have we had any issues with MoDOT taking care of 169 and 92?
No, 169 is a much higher priority road for MoDOT. It's a little higher than 92 is, but then all the rest of them fall near the very bottom.
But those are the two primary responsibilities of MoDOT.
Well, they hit the remaining portion of Double D. They hit W Highway. They hit F Highway. They hit KK Highway. And they hit 169 and 92, right, almost in reverse order.
But from a priority, I know MoDOT hits numbered roads first and then lettered roads. So they'd hit 169 and 92 first, and then any lettered highways, KK, DD, W, etc.
Right. Good. So they work their way down, similar to what we do. We hit our big streets, then we work to our medium big, and then we ultimately get down to the local streets and then the cul-de-sacs at the end of local streets.
It doesn't do any good to plow the cul-de-sacs or the small residential streets if we don't have our arteries clear, because they could get out of the neighborhood, but that's as far as they'd be able to go.
Some of it is in fact a scenario where when it happens, people, they're not done, but they're hitting the main thoroughfares. We've got a priority of bus routes and all those things. So when they're doing those things, it's like they missed you. Well, sometimes they got to come back. So part of it is that as well, I would suspect.
Alderman Arnold?
My two items are on a totally different subject, but maybe we should wait and finish the discussion here.
Okay. John?
I was going to say, I mean, I agree, cul-de-sac's low priority, but when you actually do the cul-de-sac, I think it should be done right.
I agree.
And that's what I'm saying, it's inconsistent.
It should be. Yeah, it should be.
Yep.
I mean, the cul-de-sacs typically are the last thing that gets done, but once they are able to get to those, they still need to be done properly.
And I will have that conversation, definitively.
Okay.
That is not something we want to have happening. We just,
Right.
I don't know which one of the department gets that subdivision. They all get spread out. They get a section and they go take care of it. So we will certainly have that conversation tomorrow.
Okay, anything else on your report, Jack?
Yes, the last item.
Hold on, actually, Alderman Arnold has a question.
There are two items, and I think you and I have had a little bit of a discussion on them, but one is the owner of the Wheeler building has contacted me.
Of what building? I'm sorry.
Wheeler building.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the backside that's on the alley. There's a continuing problem with drainage, and I don't know if that's the fact that maybe the old sewer drain and storm drain are hooked together, or it's just a low spot. But also, it would appear that maybe there's some drainage coming off of the city parking lot back there that's going down into the alley. And I was just wondering if you could put that on the schedule of the street department at some point to see if there is. If it's coming off of the parking lot, is there a way that we could divert some of that drainage into the street, or just to get it away from there? And I'm sure there's an old infrastructure problem in that alley, and I don't know if that'll be part of the upcoming infrastructure replacement or not. But
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I was shocked to find out. Technically, that's not even an alley.
that's what.
It's not an alley. It's just been made one. Property owners on either side own up to the center, except for a slight little section behind the Wheeler building. There's a 10-foot wide by 60-foot long section behind the Wheeler building.
Yeah.
That is in the city's name. Not certain why.
Okay. Well, maybe in this. I mean, it's not going to happen in this kind of weather anyway. So, but maybe it's at some point.
We can do some shots to see the elevation, see which way it's rolling.
And then the second item is also an item we've had some discussions on in the past. And so it goes back to the Second Creek Bridge, which we know is ending its useful life, or getting there. And it has a 10-ton limit. And I talked to the operators of this bus service, Coulter's, this morning, as a matter of fact. Those buses that they have, they're 77 feet long. They weigh just right at that limit, just a little under 20,000 pounds. So they're avoiding that bridge. Except when they're empty, they'll go across the bridge. When they pick up the kids, they're going around to 92. And the fact that we're going to do something with that bridge this year, I think, either tear it out and replace it, which means that roadway is going to be closed for several months, or reduce the load limit and make it a one-way traffic type thing of some sort.
Right.
At any rate, that's going to force traffic around to 92, which I've said before is a very dangerous intersection. And the reason I feel that, and I understand, I've seen the letter from MoDOT. They don't seem to agree with me, but they're looking at averages. And what I'm talking about is you've got heavy-duty gravel-loaded trucks coming from the quarry over by Hoover, eastbound on 92, and they go 50 miles an hour at least, and usually they're on their side of the road, but they do that, and they're going to pop over that hill, and there's the intersection. A school bus does not come out real fast. They kind of lumber out, and it takes a while to get up to speed. So my concern is, and I'm very serious, sooner or later, it's not an if, it's a when, I'm afraid, that there's going to be an accident there, and either the truck driver is going to get injured or killed going off into a ditch, or they're going to T-bone or rear end a school bus, or hit somebody else head on. It's a dangerous place. And I think I'd like to see the I'd like to see MoDOT go back and take another look at their averages and consider the fact of what happens when a loaded truck, dump truck, or even a semi comes flying over that hill at 50, and you've got a slow-moving school bus coming out of that intersection. I believe we need, on a temporary basis, I still believe we need a light there. And they're suggesting that we put up a sign someplace that says detour ahead, use caution is ridiculous because that'll work just about as well as the two flashing amber lights at Amory and 169. I think they're shirking their duty. I think sitting in an office in Lee Summit on Colburn Road, making this kind of a decision without really knowing what you're talking about is, I think that's unacceptable. And they're not, I don't think they're taking in, I don't think their statistics, their averages really take that into consideration. So I would like it if we could kind of convince them to do something different.
Maybe it would behoove us to contact the Platte County Public Works Department, their road and bridge, because that's over that area. That's the Platte County's responsibility for that intersection as the street goes in. Maybe if we team up, we can get something looked at a little differently. Because
I mean, it would be something's going to happen there because once the bridge is shut down, it's not just school buses that are going to be there. It's everybody in Cedar Lakes, for example, is going to be going out of there. So it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, we know it's 1,800 cars.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. At least that's what's coming this way.
Yep.
When they can't come this way, they've got to go some way. So.
Very good. Jack, anything else on your report?
Lastly, you have a small sheet on your desk of all the changes. Planning Commission has made several recommendations. We have not yet got everything organized to bring them all to you. Part of the MoDOT road relinquishment involved us taking over part of F Highway up to Lytton Way on the north end, from the spur, and then the spur all the way, and then Main Street from 169 to Liberty. When that first happened about 3 or 4 months ago, we went to the Planning Commission with thoughts and concepts of this. Several of the staff recommendations they wanted to implement. They're fine with implementing them and making a recommendation to you, but there were a couple of them that required us to have a completely different name. On your map here, the little one that has them all, they are the green Hilltop Street and the maroon Spellman Drive. We had a contest on social media, the website, for both of those streets. The Green Street, which is Bridge, and then the very north end of it is Woodland Court with 6 homes on the end of it. That one being that it was focused only for that area, that's only way in, only way out. Our suggestion to the commission was, let's let those folks that live on that street be in charge of naming their own. They get to a limited voting so that it wasn't wide open.
It was wide open to the residents on that street.
Yes,
but
not everybody in town. Focus it on the people that live there, and their the prevailing recommendation out of there was Hilltop Street. Hilltop, it becomes street, and then the other one was Spellman Drive, and it would start from where Maple and F, I guess now, currently, as it turns north, that maroon portion, the recommendation from the Planning Commission will be Spellman Drive. The other ones are identified on there as they line up with our standard numbering system. First Street that lines up with 2nd Street on the north side of the river would be changed to 2nd Street so that it would line up with 2nd Street. The existing section of F Highway from 169, or from the spur all the way over to Maple, is currently 1st Street / F Highway. So it would be clarifying that that is just East 1st Street. And then we'd have North Bridge in blue, taking us all the way up to Owen, and then West Main and East Main, identifying the 2 separate portions of that. That will require at least one, but we'll likely do this in multiple resolutions at the February 6th meeting. But we have to get some things organized because some of the folks' addresses are way out of the 911 addressing system. That's what we're trying to do, is to make all of our streets over time more appropriately addressed so that the 911 addressing system, in 35 years, 40 years, most folks won't know any of the people involved, but they will know that, oh, this street is numbered correctly and it's working the proper way. So This will be coming soon. It's going to be a long process.
What does that do to your mailing system? Everybody having to change their address for every piece of mail they get?
We send that out, and then the post office gets notified, and then anytime that, it's just like if you move, the post office has that first 6 months deal. They send that on any mail out for folks as well. The bulk of them get it through the 911 addressing system, but we send a letter out to every property owner that's going to change, and it has, I think we send out 16 different copies to various and sundry people. All the utilities, cable companies, phone companies, the ambulance, the fire, both Platte and Clay County 911 dispatching, they both get it, so everybody's aware of what the changes are. And then they go into an addressing guide, so anybody that can look can see it, that it walks up the street evenly.
I'm a little concerned about that 911 address, because I know at one time, a few years back, they were telling me that the street numbers, the street house numbers are reversed for a proper 911, that we've got even numbered on the west side of the street, odd numbers on the east side of the street, which is contrary to standard 911.
In several areas that is the case, including the spur up north.
Well, where I live, that's the case. I'm just wondering, you're going to be addressing that problem?
Over time, yes, we'll have to over time.
It'll take me a year to figure out.
Yeah, yes, and that's why we're not willy-nilling it when we have a street name change, because it's no longer going to be a state highway. That's when we're taking it up. We've done it several over the last 10 years, where you had 108, 208, 118. Don't know how it got addressed that way.
Over the years, there's been a number of errors like that the numbering on streets was not consistent with. And that was probably so long ago, I'm not sure what kind of standards there even were back then. But obviously, over time, we do want to try to standardize it as much as possible.
Yeah. And because it's supposed to be odd on the south, even on the north of an east-west street, and then even on the west and odd on the east on a north-south street. What? Now, your street, you're on Liberty, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you actually track that road through there, it's east and west and east and west. And it's one of those, oh my goodness. Luckily, a lot of them are very large tracks that when they ultimately develop, we can clean that up.
All right. Alderman Booth.
Since we're on this topic, just a quick question. So our responsibility for F ends at 172nd Street?
No, it currently, at the end of 172nd, where they...
'Cause I thought it was going to go all the way to W.
It will. When the second phase of the relinquishment is when they build the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So that's still coming.
We've completed the first phase,
Right.
and we can't do the second phase until MoDOT.
We don't want to do the second
We don't
phase
want to
until
do
they give us a
yeah.
bridge.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's a year away or so. Alderman Chevalier.
Thank you. So this portion in yellow, I mean, is there any reason why we can't just continue Spillman Drive all the way through? I mean, do we have to have a change like that?
Yeah, ultimately, the long-term comprehensive plan is another east-west access point on Pope Lane, which is 172nd Street. Most of the right-of-way is all there. It's just not been used that way for many, many years. If you go up 169, you can see that little path with all the power poles on the side of it, goes up through there. That's the right-of-way. But ultimately, south of 180th Street to get all the way east and west, you have to come all the way down to Owens, to get through. I guess you could go to Highland.
We'll say with a good dirt bike, that is an open street.
With the right vehicle, you can make it.
However, it does have to provide multi-vehicular traffic there, Alderman Moore. Very good.
That's all I have. Sorry it took so long.
That's okay. Next item on the agenda is item number 7. Alderman Chevalier.
I move to approve bill number 2784-18, the budget amendment for utilities, second reading.
Second by Alderman Moore. Any discussion? Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Booth,
Aye.
Alderman Wilker,
Aye.
Alderman Moore, Alderman Chevalier,
Aye.
Alderman Arnold,
Aye.
5-0.
Motion carries. Mr. Hendricks, would you please read the bill?
Once I get to the right one, I just opened the wrong one, I apologize. An ordinance amending the fiscal year 2018 operating budget to add $317,400 to the expenditure budget of the Utilities Department of the Combined Water Wastewater Systems Fund.
Thank you. Item number 8. Alderman Booth.
I move to approve bill number 2785-18, water and sewers, for its first reading.
Second by Alderman Moore. Discussion? Alderman Booth.
Yeah, so on section C, part 3, this is how we worded it to accommodate those leaks that are outside the property, right?
Right, and to include a provision, if it's outside you don't pay, and if it's inside you do pay wastewater.
Wastewater.
Right.
Okay.
So that was the way to clarify it. And to make sure that there was a understanding what your bill is, water and wastewater, all based upon your water usage. So if you have that issue, we wanted to make sure the wastewater was appropriately.
So given the language of the current bill that we have, are there any concerns you have with the potential with the frozen pipes and stuff like that? Do you see any potential areas that we've missed?
No, to be quite frank, and I took the liberty to, after our conversation, make several changes to our ordinance. They're all highlighted in yellow so that it would be easier for us to manage as staff. The first one is the definition of categorized as residential. We put that one in based upon our discussion so that we know that it doesn't apply to every account that is residential. The next one is monthly average. If you recall, in the ordinance that we used from Platte City, there were a very convoluted discussion on how to get to your monthly average. We already have one in our system. My thought was, why fix something that isn't broken? Just make reference to our monthly average calculation in 705050C. So that way we get the monthly average of your actual water usage. And it's that winter averaging formula. So the water usage is actually what you use in the winter when you're not putting stuff outside. So it's the most accurate inside water use that we could come up with. It's based on your usage in December, January, and February with a fallout provision. Just like in the other one, if you don't have a winter average, we can still calculate it. It's your total gallons you've used divided by the number of months you've used it. But we have an easy way to put in our system your average usage. It happens automatically. So if we have to make this calculation, it'll be right on the system automatically. There is one that I would make reference that you read so that you understand what it means, at least what our intent in enforcing it is. Under B on page 38, no adjustment shall occur when any of the following exist. And it's number 3. It says excessive water volume extends beyond the first 2 months of a multi-month leak. We interpret that, and I believe Platte City does as well, that if you have a 4-month-long leak, there's no adjustment eligible. And it's to encourage people to be responsible to find and fix their own problems. You will know real quickly if you have a leak when you get your bill and it's massive. So then you have to take steps to then take care of it. If you wait 4 to 6 months, it doesn't make sense to adjust. That's what they have. That's our interpretation of it. If you all disagree with that, we need to tweak that language. But that's how we understand Platte City interprets it, and that's how we planned on interpreting it as well. And then we made reference to schedule of fees. Then we did create a rules upon resolution of the request by the board, basically giving us a time frame. If we go through this process, the board grants a waiver or doesn't matter. They have basically 10 days after that to schedule or make a payment or come up with an arrangement, just like our regular billing system was. This is just going to occur outside the normal realm of our regular billing. So it just puts them on par so that they know they have to take care of this, because no late fees will have applied until such time as
Board takes action.
the board takes action, and then 10 days later, if they haven't paid, then late fees would then kick in. It gives them that same 10-day period.
Alderman Moore.
Section 705.110, water wastewater readjustment, any definition commission. The first line in yellow categorizes residential city utility billing system. I know we had talked about adding commercial to that. Was it decided not to? Because I thought that.
I think we already have that as one of our categories in the,
No.
in the billing system.
I
It's either
apologize if I misinterpreted what happened. I was understanding that this was just for homeowners, not for commercial accounts or whatever else. If that can be easily changed.
I believe the concern with commercial was the size of the water line going to those entities, that the amount of water lost in a commercial situation would be tremendous. So we were kind of hesitant to go that route at the time.
I didn't.
That was my understanding as
I
well.
didn't remember a resolution. We discussed it, but I didn't remember a resolution.
Well, I can tell you there was no specific motion changing it or one way or the other. It said residential. We simply clarified residential in the city utility billing system so that it just wasn't residential.
So every account is categorized in the billing system. And so this adjustment policy would apply only to those categorized as residential.
Yeah. Okay.
We're talking about apartments with separate meters or
Right.
one meter and things like that. So,
Right.
Very good. Any other discussion? Clerk, oh no, let's see. Yeah, clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Arnold,
Aye.
Alderman Chevalier,
Aye.
Alderman Moore, Alderman Lumper,
No.
Alderman Booth,
Aye.
4-1.
Motion carries. Mr. Hendricks, would you please read the bill?
Excuse me. An ordinance amending section 705.110 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Smithville.
Thank you. Item number 9. Alderman Booth.
Move to approve Resolution 558, police patrol vehicle purchase.
Second by Alderman Moore. Any discussion? All in favor of approving Resolution 558, police patrol vehicle purchase, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Next item of business before the board is public comment, and I've received one public comment card. If you would come up and when you address the board, you have 3 minutes. Also, please state your name and address for the record. Also, I would like to remind board members and the public that this is for an opportunity for comment from the public. It's not to engage in a discussion with the board members, as that would violate our sunshine laws in the state of Missouri. So, Rochelle Shiflett, if you'll come up and state your name and address and address the Board of Aldermen.
My name is Rochelle Shiflett. My address is 411 Woodland Avenue, Smithville, Missouri. I'll just get started here. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Ben Stepp. We own the home together. We've always loved Smithville. I was born and raised in Smithville. Ben's been here for 14 years now. Therefore, it was very important for me to raise my son here and keep him in the Smithville School District. We worked very hard saving to buy a home in Smithville. We were so excited when we closed on our house on July 18th, 2017, and moved in this past summer. Only 3 months later, I received an urgent phone call at work from my 11-year-old son, Stephen, frantically stating, "Mom, you or Ben need to get home right now. There is black stuff coming out of the floors all over the house, and it smells horrible. We both rush home from work to find our house flooded with raw sewage. In every room of the home, soaking through the floors upstairs and coming out of the ceilings and the walls in the basement. We also learned from the neighbors that the city's workers had been jetting the sewers out there because there had been problems for some time. And I do have pictures I'll leave with y'all when I get done speaking. This is terrible and unsanitary. However, we continue paying a mortgage for a home we cannot live in. We have not been able to live there for 3 months now. Instead, we've been stuck living at my sister and brother-in-law's house in an unfinished basement of a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home. 5 of us currently, and my sister has her first child on the way. Although we're very upset about all of this, we're trying to remain calm and professional. It's not always easy when this has literally kicked us out of our home and the city has not stepped in to take care of it. We tried to talk to the city, but were referred to the city's insurance company. We got the runaround. Finally, the insurance company sent us ordinance 2880-13, which I provided on your all's desks. If you refer to section 700.050, subsection 2. Although the insurance company would never tell us exactly why, after several inquiries, it said the ordinance means the city's not liable. So we received this ordinance regarding the backup preventers, but this house was built well before then. We are here today to try to get information as to why the city will not take care of this disaster when its workers caused it, and also find out what happened to cause this mess in the first place. Our insurance only covers a small portion. Not only are we displaced, but the 3 of us have lost many other belongings, clothes, furniture, and other items that cannot ever be replaced. I would like to thank you all for your time this evening, and I've left my contact information if you have any other questions or concerns for me.
Thank you very much.
May I give you these to
Certainly.
look at? I'll just leave them with y'all,
That'd be fine. And I'll share those with the board members.
Ones that we're staying at. And I wrote on the backs of what they all are. So.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle. Item number 11, new business from the floor, to be included on a future agenda. Alderman Chevalier. Okay. Anything else? I'll entertain a moment or a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
You have to make a formal motion.
Pardon?
You have to make a formal motion according to state law there.
All right. I move that we adjourn to executive session pursuant to 610.021 RSMO.
Second by Alderman Moore. Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Moore? Aye. Alderman Chevalier?
Aye.
Alderman Arnold?
Aye.
Alderman Wheat?
Aye.
Alderman Walker?
Aye.
5-0.
Motion carries. We stand adjourned to executive session.